Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. And welcome back, everybody. I'm so happy that more and more people are realizing this thing called energy healing. And I just got a text from my friend Mike this morning, and we're just going back talking about a couple of different things. And in his text is a link to, and I'm trying to bring it up here because I want to read it exactly as it is, what he sent. And here it is. The link says 7-minute chakra tune-up. I had no idea that was even on his radar. I mean, this is a guy that, fixes air conditioning systems on roofs in 20 degrees. We're like a dude, regular dude. And then he's doing chakra on YouTube. Just an example of more people being open to this thing called energy healing. Then there's also Reiki. And we're going to talk about that today and the different levels of Reiki and also some of the other things that she supports people with in their healing, specifically mediumship readings. And she is the owner of the Reiki Cottage in Kentucky. I just love that name. Ashlie Bradley is back with us. How you doing today?
Well, Steve, how are you?
Really good, really good. And you also teach Reiki. You did in the cottage over the weekend, right?
I did, yes. Yes, I did. Yep.
So there's different levels of Reiki, and I've been aware of Reiki for a bunch of years. Actually, even when I was pretty much a kid, I heard the term. Had no idea what it was. Thought it was some kind of Asian thing. I had no idea. And then it came back for me like 4 years ago, and then I realized exactly what it does. And met a practitioner like yourself back then. Had sessions, got clarity, felt so much better, but never really understood the different levels. Reiki 1, Reiki 2, Master Reiki Practitioner. Can you take us through, what's the difference?
Sure. So with Reiki level 1, that's all for self. So that's when you get the first, first dose of Reiki or the first attunement that I do with my students is where source, I'm just the conduit for all this. So I as their master would do the attunement with them, and then they would get a symbol, which would be the power symbol, and that would be to where they would be able to be attuned to do Reiki on themselves.
Wow. How do you get to the different levels, and what does that word attunement? I've heard that before, but not really sure what it means.
Sure, an attunement is where the energy comes from source through me to them, and they like the symbol, the symbol for Reiki 1 is the power symbol that would be given to them from me, and then it's kind of like a ritualistic kind of a deal, and it's where they get the first bump of Reiki. So the attunement lasts for 21 days. And you go, it's like a soul toxifying kind of a thing. It is like a rewriting your karmatic history. So it is it's not exactly easy breezy on your system. It is a little tough. You might experience some flu-like symptoms, body odors, sleep discrepancies. You might be really triggered by events or other things, or people the universe might be trying to trigger you, period, to see, where you're at. So it's just it's a very spiritualistic journey that takes about 21 days. And then when that's over, you're kind of you kind of level up. It just,
Wow. I had no idea that was involved.
Mm-hmm.
None whatsoever.
When a master attunes their students, they have to go through a certain prep with them also. At least I do. And so, it's basically a raw diet, where that's how I go as far as a raw diet, but it's no dairy, no hormones, so no meat, no drugs or alcohol, for no nicotine, no caffeine, because you want the transfer to be pure. And you want it to be as easy, as gentle as possible. So some people do have kind of healing crisis to where they do get sick, especially if they've had a lot of toxic issues in their past or abuse, things like that, to where it, to where it takes more on their, like kind of like DNA soul structure healing.
This is more evidence why we should live as clean as possible. I had no idea. And that's for 21 days. You need to, call it abstain from certain things that may be, a little toxic to your system.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Wow.
And so every time you bump up, so that's with Reiki level 1. And then Reiki level 2 is where you are able to work on people, places, things, pretty much anything that you would like.
Oh.
So, and that is where you get the emotional and mental, emotional and mental symbol. And then you would get the distance symbol also. So that's where you can do distance Reiki. You can help people with addictions, all kinds of things that, help with goal setting. You can clear homes, get rid of negative energies.
Wow.
Yeah.
I see. Learning today, didn't know that. So you have to be at Reiki level 2 if you want to do Reiki on, call it objects. I would assume maybe also animals. Would that be right? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So now that, there is an animal Reiki class that you can take also that just zeroes in on animals and their chakras, because, their chakra systems are a little bit different than ours. But yeah, you can definitely work on animals. And also you want to be level 2 because you need to be able to do distant Reiki. So if an animal is angry or hurt, obviously you can't be working on that animal, so you can beam the energy to them, and you would need the distant Reiki to be able to do that. So I do that. I work with a lot of animals, a lot of horses, specifically, especially, we're in Kentucky, so, I do have access to them. And so, that's, you just don't want to get hurt, obviously, if you're trying to help a wounded animal. So I rescue Rottweilers. The female that we brought in a few years ago, she was in really critical shape. And my male Rottweiler loves Reiki, but my female, she was so abused, she didn't understand what it was. So I would have to beam at her from across the room. And now I'm able to touch her and, place the symbols on her paws and do a full chakra alignment on her. It took a few years to do that.
Incredible. Now, when it comes to objects, I know some people that will Reiki their water. Sometimes some Reiki their food. Do you Reiki? Do you do that occasionally on things other than people and pets?
Oh, I Reiki everything. I Reiki myself in the morning. I Reiki my car when I'm pulling out of the driveway. I Reiki all my food. I Reiki my bath water. I Reiki all my crystals. Pretty much anything that I touch in my presence gets Reiki involved.
Do you notice a difference?
Oh, huge. I also anyone that comes to see me or that just question whatever. I do something called a Reiki box, and that is anybody that has a session with me or just needs more love in their life. I put their name in a box, which I call my Reiki box, and so whenever I do anything Reiki associated, everybody in that box gets like a little Reiki blessing. So
now I've never heard that before. What's in the box?
Just your name. So I take a piece of paper and I would write Steve, and then what's going on, keep an eye on his stomach and his throat, and then I would, at any time that I did anything Reiki involved, you would get a little Reiki bump.
So this tells me that it's about the intention. So you write it on a piece of paper. We could even say, and correct me if I'm wrong, this pen, I'm going to put it in the Reiki box, but this pen represents my friend Jennifer. I'm just going hypothetical. This represents her. I'm putting it in the box, and that we're going to Reiki that. There could be pieces of paper with people's names on it as well. This pen, this is Jennifer right here. Is it?
That's fine.
It would be the same, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then if you wanted to go as far as do a distant Reiki session for her, you could. How I do it is a lot of times I make a little stick person on a piece of paper, and then I would take my chakra stones and then put them on the piece of paper, like in order of their chakras, and then I could attune, like align their chakras distance, and then I could do like an actual session. And then anything that I get from that distant Reiki session, I would just write down on the piece of paper, and let them know at the end of the session. Some people want to do that with me on the phone, and some just don't mind that I send them the information, which is fine. And it's very clear. I mean, I pick up just, via vibration, which we've talked about before, is how I connect with this. And, the intent is there. As long as they're willing and ready to receive, I can do distant Reiki on anything or anyone.
I thought that in order to do Reiki on someone or any kind of energy work, that you need their permission.
You do. So if they were willing and ready to receive it, I just wouldn't just willy-nilly it out,
Yeah, well, like, for example, here's Jennifer. Would you need to reach out and say, hi, Jennifer, or I know you're going through some stuff, so we're gonna do Reiki on you. You cool with that? Yes. Okay, great. Would it be something like that? How do you know if they're willing and ready?
If they came to me and they wanted a session, or if they were already in my box, they would just get a blessing anyway. So
if you didn't tell somebody, would it have the same impact?
It could, if I knew that they were, which I don't want to be abrasive, you know what I mean? I don't want to step over my boundaries with that. But if I knew somebody that had infinitive health issues and didn't understand Reiki and just said, hey, I need some prayers, I would definitely send them a Reiki blessing. Because they wouldn't, it's just, it's to me, that's a prayer.
100%. And thank you for opening that door for anybody that looks at this and says, look at those two crazy wackaloons talking about this, magical stuff. It's the same thing as saying to somebody, in many regards, the same thing as saying, I'm praying for you and your outcome, or positive vibes for that job interview tomorrow. You got this. You're just sending positive energy. When you're doing Reiki, you're doing that in a different way with a different background and attunement and training and all of that. But you're doing the same, because this is what I would imagine people who are skeptical say, well, okay, then why don't you just Reiki an entire stadium of 50,000 people? Okay, this stuff works, right? Why don't you do that? Why don't we just Reiki the world? Why don't you guys do that? Well, you can't, because they need to be open to it. Am I right?
Yeah, they need to be open to it. I mean, I've sent out, my mom lives in Florida, so whenever I fly down to Siesta Key, I do like a distant Reiki session on the beach. And whoever wants and willing to receive, they can join in. If not, I'm just going to send it out. And if, whoever catches it, catches it, that's just my little piece of giving love back to the world.
Well, it's the same thing. And thank you for that. It's the same thing as when somebody does a psychic medium reading for someone. And I've witnessed this before. I've had, during a radio show, a panel of skeptics come walking in, and the reader had no idea. I said, I've got a little surprise for you today. These people don't believe anything you do. And that person read all of them very well, except for one older gentleman that has hands crossed. I'm like, I'm not having this. And nothing came through because he wasn't open to it. He wasn't able to receive it.
That's right. So, if somebody is not willing to receive, you're just wasting your time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what I tell people. I don't care if you believe me or not. I don't care if you believe in what I do or not. I'm not here to convince anyone. I just do what I do. I show up. I've been doing this my whole life.
Wow.
So, yeah, it is what it is.
Actually, I'll take whatever positive stuff you got, throw it over here. Who would ever say, no, I don't want anything. No, I don't want any of that positive energy you're throwing my way. I don't know.
Oh, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. Yeah. Some people don't have time for it.
Well, I feel they're missing out.
I agree.
And they're probably the same people who have had to, at once in their life, said, I'm praying for you. Or in a Facebook post, Instagram, somebody has an issue, challenge, I'm praying for you. They've done that before. They have,
Yeah.
Tell me about you and the medium side of you.
Okay.
What type of readings do you do? Now, it's my understanding medium is typically those who can read people who have passed over to the other side.
Correct. So with my mediumship, I do a lot. So I also do like clearings or evictions on spirits. Let's see. I'm a natural medium. I've been doing this since I was about 8 years old. I didn't take a class to learn how to be a medium. I don't even understand that concept. I was just born like this. So I think it was around 8 years old I realized that I was a little different than other people. And I was, it was a little confusing because I would see and hear things that I realized other people could not hear. Or smell, or, I think I went over this before, but I see spirits in all different forms. Some I see just as clear as you or I. Some I see just like in light form. Some I smell them. Some I just hear them. And so it's all different ways. And when I'm totally open with Reiki and somebody is on my table, I do open the communication if anybody does want to come in and give them a message, or, if they're not too intrusive, they can help me heal them. I'm fine with that. They can, just by sending their love is what I mean by helping me heal them. A lot of times, if somebody does come and they have somebody with them, like a spirit with them, they don't realize that they're with them. It's like they just kind of, they're like, oh, we need to go. They kind of know that I can communicate with them beforehand. So they kind of come in and they're like, give this person extra love, things like that. So it's been a wild ride. So when it comes to mediumship readings, I do several different things. When I was around 16, I didn't understand like how to communicate with spirits, so I started using like different modalities. I was doing cards, and then later in life I picked up runes, and then I was able to like create a full story. So I would just be like, and that's like how I learned how to communicate with spirits, honestly, because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have any kind of mentor. So it was just a little confusing and a little overwhelming at times, especially as a teenager. So that's what helped me. And so now when people come to me, I can say, if you want to bring a photo, or if you want to bring a picture, we can sit down and just have a straight conversation with whoever. So I just tell them to bring questions, because a lot of times they don't, like when I open, they don't know what to say. Like they're just kind of like shocked. And then I can communicate with, I try to, my goal is to communicate with whoever via vibration. So I can just say their name and then they can, appear. Normally
you would say the name of somebody, let's say somebody wants you to connect with their insert name of relative. Mm-hmm. You could potentially do that just by calling out the name.
Correct.
I got to believe there's times where they might not come through.
Yeah, there's times that they don't come. Yeah. I mean, there's been times where I've had somebody in front of me, like doing a full mediumship reading, and then they wanted me to contact that loved one again because they had a question that they couldn't remember, that they forgot. And then that particular loved one did not want to speak to me because their family member was not with me anymore, and they didn't want to deal with me. That happens more often than not.
What happens if you get a connection from the other side and it's maybe not the most positive piece of information? Do you filter it? Do you deliver it?
I deliver it. I don't filter anything. I think that's a disservice. And I've had some pretty abrasive readings. For example, I had somebody come to me and they wanted me to read their loved one, and I did. And what came across was not what they were giving me. So they told me the person that passed over told me a completely different story than what their loved one told me. And so I was just like, well, they want to know why you're even crying about the situation, like, because you didn't help them when you could have. And
Ouch.
things like that. Yeah. And so I feel like it's a disservice if I was to sugarcoat anything. Some of it I don't want to deal with. Like if it's a murder and they decide to give me more leads on what's going to happen to somebody else, if it was, I've dealt with things where someone was murdered and it wasn't meant for them and it was meant for somebody else and they wanted me to give that person a message. I'm not willing to do that.
Wow. What a responsibility to be in and have.
It can be a little heavy at times, So I try to, keep it light and airy. And I really go into the vibration of love and light only. And so I don't deal with low vibrationals. I just won't. And that goes for house clearings. They know I'm there. I know that they're there. They want to talk to me all day long. Low vibrationals love to speak with me. And I'll blast them out of there. I don't need to talk to them. I don't need to find out where they came from, why they're there. If they're calling me at that level, it just needs to be gone, dealt with on a spiritual level and evacuated.
I'm just going to say, and this happens more times than not when talking to somebody who does what you do, there's tech issues. As you're talking right now, Ashlie, the Wi-Fi is sputtering a little bit. I'm not kidding. I really believe it's the energy. I got you. We can hear you, but it was a little jittery there for a second. I'm not surprised. I see it happen all the time when it comes to energy and technology. What about, like, my dad never has really come through in readings. My mom,
okay.
I even get signs from my mom, very specific. I might have shared, like, when I ask for them, usually I get them, and they're very specific. Dad, not so much. I try to figure that out. I don't know why. He seemed like an outgoing guy. Is there a reason they don't have anything to say? Like, I don't know.
Oh, I mean, that can be it. They can just not want to be bothered. Like I was so close with my father that I can't communicate with him. It hurts too much. It's just too painful for me. I was there when he passed. And he does come in, like, there are certain events, like for example, the first snow of every year, I see my dad.
That's beautiful, by the way.
But as for open communication with my father, I just don't. And same with my stepdad. Like, I had a great relationship with him, but I just don't communicate with him on a regular basis. If I was to call them, they're going to power punch and they're going to take care of, they're going to be there for me and they're going to definitely be a support system. But my dad was just so close to me that he stays back a little bit.
And for me, it's the other way around. And some have said, I wonder if he just feels like he really wasn't there the way he wanted to be. And, other factors involved that maybe kind of like push back. I'm not coming through. I got your back, but I'm not talking.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
that could very well it. Yeah.
What's the significance of the first snow?
I really don't know because he was a Leo, so it's not like I really don't know. I maybe it's because we used to play together in the snow. I really don't know what that is, but he really loves snow, and so that's when I see him. So I can't really say what the significant is, but he definitely shows up. And he had like a very huge laugh, and so I can hear that laugh. That's
crazy. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And he's coming through.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. He has both of my children, actually. When they were both 3 years old, my children are 5 years apart. And they didn't know that my dad, had issues with his health. that at the end of his life, he couldn't walk and he couldn't talk and he couldn't straighten out his arms. So they both told me, both of my children, at the age of 3, that they have met their grandpa, which is not their papaw, their grandpa with the hairy face, and he had new legs and new arms. He just wanted me to know that. So they both delivered that message, both of my children. So that was wild because they didn't know that.
I think you'll agree, and this is for anybody that's skeptical, when you feel the presence of someone and they're trying to tell you something, you'll know.
Oh yeah,
you'll know whether you're a medium or not. And I know, I feel it. Like and then it's backed up by, for me, validation, proof, whatever it might be. And very specific, not just I found a penny on the ground. That supports you, great. Very specific, so I know.
Yeah.
Amazing talking with you. Thanks for sharing everything today. How do we find you?
You can find me through the ReikiCottageKentucky.com. That's my website. You can find me on Facebook at the Reiki Cottage. Let's see, I'm on Instagram.
And that's for all of this, what we're talking, anything energy related. I'm going to call it all energy healing because you heal from the messages from the other side as well.
Correct.
There's healing there too. And of course, with Reiki and all of that and more that you offer, it's all on the website. It can be all done virtually like we're doing here today. Even a phone call. You don't have to see somebody to exchange the energy.
It's true.
Yeah. Great talking with you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It. We'll be right back. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Jason Derulo. I love that music connects to people all over the country. But unfortunately, so does something else. Childhood hunger. 15 million kids struggle with hunger right here in America. And yet, every year, billions of pounds of surplus food in the U.S. go to waste instead of going to the children in need. Feeding America is working to change this. The Feeding America nationwide network of food banks rescues this surplus of food to help provide meals to families in virtually every community in the United States, including yours. But they just can't do this alone. Join me in the fight against hunger in America. For more information on what you can do to get involved, visit feedingamerica.org. That's feedingamerica.org. Together we can solve hunger. Together, we're Feeding America. A message from Feeding America and the Ad Council.